presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and powered by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Welcome to the podcast, where former San Antonio police officer, author, and pastor Tim Rupp walks you through real-life scenarios involving our police officers and digs into the depths of facts and opinions on each case. This is Cop Talk, and it starts now.
Well, hello. Welcome to the Strong Blue Line's Cop Talk. I'm Tim Rupp in the Rev.FM studio in beautiful Idaho Falls. Here with me is Station Manager Gary Austin. Hello, Gary.
Hello, Tim Rupp.
Well, here we are at the end of March.
Yes.
Now, I remember at the beginning of March, it was like springtime.
Was it?
At the beginning of March.
Oh, at the beginning.
And then we had the second winter.
Yes.
I was out of town visiting my mom. My mom's not doing well at all. But I was out of town visiting my mom, and when I left, no snow on the ground.
Right.
I mean, early March, which is very, very unusual. No snow on the ground. I came back. It was like the middle of January.
Wow.
Like, wow.
Yeah, and it was piled up.
It was
amazing.
And there was outages, and you know, because of the heavy snow. This time of year, when we get snow, it's generally a heavy snow because the air is damp and it's wet.
Right. Now, you don't have full-grown trees yet, right, in your neighborhood, or you do?
No, we do not. Not where I'm at. No.
Yeah, we had some cleanup to do.
Some snapping.
All over town. I mean, all over the area.
I imagine. It takes
crazy.
down power lines and stuff like
that. It does,
yeah. Anyway, and then you showed me the video of the ISP officer, the Idaho State police officer.
Yeah.
It was almost ran over by an 18-year-old.
Yes.
He scooted out of the way.
Scary.
Yeah, that's so scary.
Yeah.
Anyway,
nice to have you back.
Good to be back. So we're going to talk about LEOSA.
Okay.
That's the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. But before we talk about the Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, better known as LEOSA, let's do our honor to the officers who were killed in line of duty on this date in history. So today is Wednesday, March 27th, or if you listen on the weekend, it's the weekend after that. It's actually Easter weekend.
Yes.
Hey, happy Easter. Right. Make sure you go to
Easter.
You ought to go to church every Sunday. It ought to be a regular bill. But if you don't normally go to church, go to a good church I would recommend Water Springs Church.
Yeah.
It's not the only one in Idaho Falls. There are a lot of good churches in Idaho Falls.
Lot of
so and if you don't, we prefer not to go to Water Springs, give Gary a call. He'll give you some information on some good churches in your area.
Absolutely.
Let him know where you're at, and we'll let you know. There's a lot of good churches here.
Yeah.
So Easter Sunday, man, the when I was growing up, Gary, getting a little off topic here, but when I was growing up, my favorite holiday always was Christmas. Mm-hmm. But as I get older, it's really Easter. Because of what it means.
Right.
Because Easter is the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
It sure is.
And it's through His death that we are saved. So it's an exciting time of year.
Yeah.
And this year it falls one day off my birthday.
Oh,
every once in a while, Easter will fall on my birthday, but it does. Anyways,
I forgot about that. That's really cool.
So, but we're gonna honor Warden Daniel Webster. Now, I wonder who Daniel Webster was named after. I wonder if he's named after Daniel Webster. Anyways, he was the Connecticut Department of Corrections warden back in 1862. It says here, Daniel Webster served warrant as warden of the Westerfield State Prison. Warden Webster had reprimanded a prisoner who was serving a life sentence for arson for failing to complete his assigned prison work. On March 24th, the suspect again refused to do his work and was sent to a room to await Warden Webster. So this is like a prisoner getting sent to the principal's office.
Absolutely.
You see them old westerns, and they go to see the warden.
Mm-hmm.
The warden's always got that big desk and a big office. Well, he's waiting for the warden. When the warden entered, the suspect attacked him with a shoe knife.
A shoe knife?
So he had made a knife and put it in a shoe.
Uh-huh.
That's the only thing I can think of, a shoe knife. The prisoner stabbed the warden 2 times, once in the side and once in the abdomen. He died of his wounds 3 days later. Now remember, this was 1862, so they didn't have the medical attention they have nowadays. Right. Warden Webster was survived by his wife and 4 children. He was buried at West Cemetery, Somers, Connecticut. The Webster Correctional Institute in Cheshire, Connecticut, is named after Warren Webster.
Oh,
50 years old when he was killed. So here is, you wouldn't think a warden, you'd feel that you're pretty safe, as far as being attacked as a warden. But here's a prisoner that got in to see the warden. They searched him or whatever, but I don't know, man. Wow.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Pulled a knife out of his shoe and killed the warden.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyways, so what do you have, Gary?
Well, I've got Sergeant Benjamin Michael Jenkins. This is end of watch in 2020. Nevada Department of Public Safety, Nevada Highway Patrol.
Oh, Highway Patrolman. Just like the ISP officer we talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
Highway officer.
Yep. So Sergeant Ben Jenkins was shot and killed when he stopped to assist a disabled motorist. And very interesting. During the encounter with the subject, the man fatally shot Sergeant Jenkins. And so the man stole Sergeant Jenkins' uniform and patrol car, and he fled the area. Wow.
And this was in 2020.
2020. Stole his uniform and patrol car. He was apprehended several hours later following, of course, a massive manhunt. The subject pleaded guilty but mentally ill to first-degree murder, third-degree arson, grand larceny of a motor vehicle, and grand larceny of a firearm. And he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, which is good. Wow. That is quite the story.
Yeah. You notice how they charged him with grand larceny of a firearm, grand larceny of a motor vehicle. That's the vehicle he stole. That's the police car he stole, and that's the officer's gun that he took. And, and so what they do is they charge him with all they can.
Right.
So because if he got off on like a technicality, they're going to get him something. And so they put the charges on him.
But third-degree arson.
He must have burned the car.
He must have.
He either burned his car that he left. He could have burned the police car, maybe whatever. Anyways.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Ed, interesting. I'm thinking of, it was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so probably not a lot of people on this highway, but he did all of that and nobody saw it.
Yeah. Well, you 6 o'clock in the morning and you think, officer driving, here's this, and what time of year was this? Oh, well, March 27th, obviously. So in Nevada, it's probably not, if you're out in the desert, you get awful cold at night.
Yeah, that's true.
But he's thinking somebody's maybe on their way to work. Had a breakdown. Yeah. So he stops to help somebody. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it doesn't say what the if he was running from something or had just so sad. So sad.
Anyway, so here we are. We're going to talk about LEOSA, the LEOSA law. And the LEOSA law is Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act. And this law, let me tell you a little bit about this law. I'm giving you a little bit of background. It gives a little background in the third paragraph there. But what this does, it was enacted after 9/11. And it came because of 9/11. What happened with all that? It was passed through Congress in 2004, and the law talks about two classes of people: law enforcement officers and retired law enforcement officers. And what it did is it was a federal law that said every state must have a concealed carry for law enforcement officers or retired law enforcement officers that meet certain criteria. And if they pass this, the state will issue them a state concealed carry license, and that license by that retired officer, that active officer, will be recognizable in any state in the union. They go to anywhere in the union. And so the idea is to have law enforcement officers go from state to state as they go on vacation, they're traveling or whatever they are, that they'll carry their guns with them for the protection of the citizens. Mm-hmm. You can't get any more trained than a police officer in this country.
Exactly.
And so I personally, after I retired, I got my a LEOSA license, what they call it, and I got it here in Idaho. Mm-hmm. And so but the thing is every year it has to be renewed. And the reason why it has to be renewed annually is because I have to take a firearms test. I got to qualify.
Oh,
and so I do that annually. So it's kind of a pain every single year going to the DMV and getting it. But I want to have this. I could get another license too, but this is recognized federally. But what was going on in New Jersey wasn't playing along right.
No, it doesn't seem like that.
No, it says here, New Jersey law enforcement officers are now free from the state's archaic laws that impeded Law Enforcement Officer Safety Act, or LEOSA, carry in New Jersey. The Federal Third Court of Appeals, in a stinging rebuke, affirmed and sided with the New Jersey District Court, ruling that essentially made every New Jersey law and regulation that barred lawful LEOSA carry by qualified law enforcement officers unconstitutional. So what they did, Gary, is New Jersey said, we're going to make our own laws concerning retired law enforcement officers. And if you're carrying in New Jersey and you're a retired law enforcement officer, you must have a New Jersey license. In other words, if I traveled across the country and I went to New Jersey, they would arrest me for carrying. Because I don't have a retired New Jersey one. So I had to meet their qualifications. That's what they were doing. Congress amended the law in 2010 and 2013. In both cases, expanded LEOSA authority and jurisdiction. LEOSA's intent was to supersede state law. See, when the federal law, some people don't understand, when the federal laws makes a law, federal law is sovereign over state law. Mm-hmm. So they can do that. The government, and we want to hold the government back from doing that.
Right.
We want to let the states rule themselves, if they will. But there are some things where federal laws, like the federal law is the Constitution.
Right.
A state can't say, well, you don't have the right to remain silent in the state. No, federal law says you do have that right in a criminal case. Right. So there's good things about federal law. There's also some things that we don't agree with, but this was a federal law. Congress went as far as to declare LEOSA's purpose was to implement national measures of uniformity and consistency, and allow officers to carry concealed firearm anywhere within the United States. Yet for decades, the state of New Jersey ignored that preemption and created its own regulatory scheme. So they tried, they were so anti-gun.
They sure were.
That they went against it. A lawsuit based on federal preemption would force the state of New Jersey to abide by the law, which would mean that all of New Jersey gun laws and their retired police officer statute would be unenforceable. See, they had that retired police officer that if you're a retired police officer in our state, you got to meet these extra criteria.
Okay.
The state fought against the lawsuit, and the logic for fighting fell apart along the way. In April of 2021, under the pressure from the LEOSA lawsuit, the New Jersey Attorney General's office amended its facts concerning retired law enforcement officer permits to carry in the federal firearms law. And so what they did, they went through their statute and they changed it to comply. This change was a step in the right direction, but it was inconsistent and discriminated between federal and out-of-state officers within their own state. So they made some changes, but they still didn't let out-of-state officers come in. They were arresting police officers.
Huh.
Like I went to New Jersey. If I went to New Jersey with my family, and for some reason they found out I was carrying, they'd arrest me.
Breaking the law. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Then in 2022, so just a couple years ago, the federal district judge in New Jersey affirmed the lawsuit points and issued an order on June 21st that said all these New Jersey laws are preempted by LEOSA as applied to any retired law enforcement officer who is qualified. So you got to be qualified. And some people say, well, what are the qualifications? A retired police officer to be qualified, you have to serve a minimum of 15 years active duty as a police officer, full-time employment, and be retired with good standing. In other words, if you got in trouble and they said, you either retire or we're going to fire you, that's not retiring good standing. So you have to have good standing. and you have to meet the
which are both
regulations.
Good.
They're good. They're if you've done your job well, and if you did a good job as a police officer, you can do it.
Sure.
Yeah. But you have to have at least 15 years. Like that's what it was when I retired. I think it's probably still the same. And so they said you can carry, and the New Jersey law was overturned, and it says regardless of their residence or the agency from which they retired. So it's not like, you got to be retired from New Jersey.
Right.
No, you don't.
No.
Anywhere in the country. New Jersey decided to appeal that ruling, which brought it before the Third Circuit Court of Appeals last summer. The Circuit Court heard oral arguments from the attorneys on the plaintiff's side, Nick Harbis and Mike Darby from the law firm Blank Rome and New Jersey Attorney General's office. Today, the Third Circuit Court issued its ruling, and this was in February, I believe.
Yeah.
The middle of February.
Mm-hmm.
They issued their ruling, which supports the previous district court ruling that each point and tells the state of New Jersey to once again comply with the federal preemption of the law, the LEOSA law. Of course, the state could appeal to the Supreme Court, so they could appeal one more.
Sure.
But what's that going to tell you about how far they're going
exactly.
to be against guns?
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. A lot of people don't understand. Some people, I was surprised when I was a police officer. I'd come across people and they would think, well, you're not on duty, so you don't have a gun. I just found that surprising. But I guess people just don't know. They just don't realize it. They think that you're off duty as a police officer, that you're just off duty like you're any other citizen.
Yeah.
Well, in the state of Texas, if you're a certified peace officer and you see a felony go down in your presence, you're required to act.
Exactly.
So you have to act to take. Now, if you're in a situation where say I'm at the grocery store and I'm carrying my 2-year-old child in my hand, obviously, I'm going to protect my child.
Right.
I may just be a good witness.
Right.
And call it in or something like that because I don't want to put my child at harm or somebody else's child at harm. But basically, if you're a retired officer and you see a felony going down, you can't just walk away and not do anything.
Right.
You have to act, and if you're going to act on something, you need to be armed.
Absolutely, and it's very similar to EMT or paramedic. That you come upon an accident or whatever it is, medical help, medical assistance, then you're required, to do assistance.
Yeah, if you have the training stuff, you're required to do that. I mean, who would not do that?
Exactly,
anyways, and who would turn and walk away from that?
Yep, and many instances as off-duty officers that were shot at a suspect. An off-duty officer and at a restaurant, and there was a robbery or whatever it is. There's so that's good. That's just a.
And with the LEOSA, the whole reason for the act was under President Bush at that time, the younger President Bush, he realized that we need as many good guys with guns as possible.
Absolutely.
And these guys are trained. The guys and these gals are trained. They're retired law enforcement officers. They've been in, I want somebody to help me out.
Yeah.
If I had a choice, it would be a police officer, a retired police officer, whatever.
Yeah.
Beat them with your cane if you can. And we may have to do that as we get older. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. And then, we got this other article here, and this talks about Six Flags over Georgia.
Oh.
Now, Six Flags is an amusement park. I'm not sure who owns Six Flags. Six Flags own Six Flags? Or?
I think it's Six Flags, yeah.
I know they got a Six Flags over Texas.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go together, like SeaWorld owns them or something like
exactly.
that. I don't know. But anyway, Six Flags over Georgia. And they just opened up, I guess, this is from the beginning of this month, from March the 5th. And on Saturday, just the weekend before, so they just opened up the Six Flags over Georgia,
brand new.
And it's a small town, Estelle, California, but it's just outside of Atlanta. So it's in the area of Atlanta. It says on opening day, Six Flags over Georgia, chaos erupted as a large crowd of some 500 to 600 individuals created disturbances inside the park. leading to a violent clash with police and gunfire near the amusement park in Austell, just outside of Atlanta. Around 6:15 p.m., so that wasn't that late, on Saturday, 6:15 on a Saturday, it's early evening. Cobb County police were called to the park to assist security in dealing with a large, unruly crowd that was reportedly running through the park and engaging in fights. The situation quickly escalated, with video shared on social media erupting and capturing the mayhem. Scenes depicted young people running through the park, one group kicking someone on the ground, and the panic that ensued as multiple gunshots rang out.
What?
This is just crazy.
Oh, I don't even understand.
What is going on in our country?
Yeah. 500 to 600 individuals, that's quite a group.
And they're just running around, and security called the police to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
As officers attempted to disperse the crowd and ensure their exit from the park, the situation took a dangerous turn when an unknown number of suspects fired at the officers. In response, a Cobb County police officer discharged their weapon, striking a 15-year-old individual. The wounded teenager was rushed to Grady Hospital, Atlanta, where they remain in critical condition as of this writing. A handgun was recovered by the police near the location where the injured teenager was found, underscoring the severity of the incident. So, and you got a bunch of, and I'm assuming this 500 to 600 crowd was probably a lot of young people, teenagers, young adults,
right,
causing this, just shooting at the officers. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation, GBI. I worked with the GBI when I worked murders.
Oh, really?
One of my victims, a couple of them were from Georgia.
Oh, I'll be darned.
They were, and so I worked with GBI. That was back in the 90s.
That's cool.
What'd they say? A hot minute ago.
A hot minute ago.
That's what they said.
That was a hot minute ago.
Anyway, they took the GBI took immediate charge of the investigation. Preliminary investigation from the GBI indicate that Cobb County officers were initially responding to help control the crowd near the park's entrance after several fights had broken out among patrons leaving the park. During this process, multiple individuals began shooting, hitting at an unoccupied county police department marked patrol car. They're just shooting at police. This is crazy.
Yeah.
This is just unbelievable. It goes on here. I know we're running out of time here, Gary, but it goes on and talks about, what a nightmare for PR for this park.
Yeah. It's horrible.
What would you do if you were planning on taking your family to the new Six Flags over Georgia with this going on? That's just crazy, crazy. I don't know what, Anyways, that is, and that's another reason why we need LEOSA law. Officers need to be
absolutely
armed at all times. Anyways.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for listening in. If you have a topic or question you want to address on Cop Talk, send me an email. You can email suggestions, questions, comments, or complaints to coptalk@therev.fm. That's coptalk@therev.fm. Top from the good book today. Whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. Thank you for joining us and help us to make the thin blue line a strong blue line.
Cop Talk is presented by the Strong Blue Line Foundation and sponsored by Moose Ridge Coffee in Snake River Landing, Idaho Falls. Questions and comments are always welcome by email to coptalk@therev.fm. Listen, follow, leave a review, and share this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or YouTube. And visit thestrongblueline.org to learn how you can be a supporter. Cop Talk is a Rev FM production, produced and edited by Gary Austin. Thank you for joining us on Cop Talk.